Well, all right, all right, all right. Welcome, everybody. Another episode of Legends, Sports, and Amplify. We're here just about every day talking baseball history, sports history, Negro League baseball history, all those passions and pursuits that go along with it. We're in episode 116, and today I'm really happy to have on today an incredible artist based out of California, John Hanley. How you doing, sir?
Good.
Welcome aboard. I appreciate you taking the time. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I came across your work, digging through. I do a lot of put out some things every single day. Has to do with either baseball history, Negro League history especially. And when I saw your work, I was like, I was blown away. I mentioned to you before we started. My dad was an artist. I got to see it as a little kid, watching him go through um, you know, all the effort that it takes. And I see your work and it like I said, it blew me away. I mean, it is fantastic stuff. And you've done some work with some very, very interesting people, organizations, and so forth. We'll talk about all that. So I like to hear. Professor James Brunson did a lot of work on early research on Negro League baseball, and he called it an origin story. So I kind of like that. It's kind of superhero, I like to hear
hmm
how people get into what they end up doing. I mean, this is, it's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into your career and your artwork.
Okay. Well, number one, I've always loved baseball. I grew up, my grandfather and my dad, we would talk baseball, watch baseball, listen to baseball on the radio. And I wanted to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
And I was a pretty good high school player and had some looks and didn't work out. And I always liked art. So I went to art school in American Academy of Art in Chicago,
Cool.
probably one of the best art schools in the country. But at the time, I was really just into, you know, guys like Frank Frazetta, that
Yeah.
fantasy stuff. And then, once I graduated from school, I got a job in a art studio, commercial art studio. So we did storyboards and cereal box art and all sorts of stuff. And it was just, that's kind of like where I learned the basics. And there were so many great artists to talk to. And you had an airbrush guy, you had a marker guy, you had a
Yeah.
pencil drawing guy. I mean, there were just artists who specialized in stuff. And then there was like one or two that could do everything. And I was, my first job, I was an apprentice. So I was running and getting food and art supplies, but I would always look over these guys' shoulders just to figure it out. And I think that's just how I got faster with
Mhm.
work. I mean, I can get a painting done pretty quickly, but it's
Wow.
because we were just under so much pressure to get stuff done. When I finally got put on the board doing storyboards, we were constantly working nights and weekends, art directors making changes. Then after a while, it was just like, you're doing all this art and everybody's got a finger in it. There's art directors who are making changes just to justify their job. They're frustrated artists themselves. I'm not saying anything bad about art
Right.
directors. It's like, you're working at Friday night at 10 o'clock and they come in and they're, you got to change this, you got to change that. After a while, it's just burnout.
I bet,
So,
right?
so I decided to go freelance. It wasn't at a great time. With my wife and I, we had just bought our first house. So that was bad timing, but I couldn't take it anymore. It was too much.
It's really interesting what you said because I thought about it as you started talking about it. I started thinking about it, uh, and I like to kind of put a sports or a baseball kind of analogy on a lot of things, right? But you just said it about how there's so many different styles. And
Yep.
and not and then styles within those styles. I mean, you could have a medium, and then someone could have a different take on it. And so it reminds me of like baseball, right? The beauty of baseball years ago used to be, boy, you never saw two pitchers with the same windup or the same batting
Right.
stance, or
Right.
today they're teaching these kids, they're cookie cutting them through all these academies and the paper play, youth sports teams and things that are out there now, and they're turning them all into like little mechanicatrons, and I don't know if that's definitely necessarily good for the game. And so if you put it to an art analogy, right? Think about if everybody had the same style and the same way of doing things, it would be kind of boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
So, how long ago did you get into it? You said you went to art school.
Mhm.
So what are we talking? We're talking in the
I
80s, 90s.
graduated in '85. So
So
I've been doing this a long time.
so you yeah, so that's my same as me. When did you finally feel like you kind of got over the hump? Because I like I said, I look at your work now and who you've worked with and who you've been working commission work with. Uh, how did you get how'd you get yourself noticed? I guess would be my question because there's a lot of people out there, I'm sure trying to do the same thing. So,
Yeah, it's so much different today. I
hmm
mean, I pounded the pavement with my feet. I mean, there was no
yeah.
email or any. I mean, this was before, I mean, 85, 86, 87. Computers were just starting to come in.
hmm
And I would take my portfolio around Chicago and just walk around and drop it off
Ah,
at different places and ship it out all over the country. And I guess my first big break was with DC Comics. Did a
okay.
lot of movie related art, and my big break was with Batman.
I noticed you have a lot of Batman related art.
Yeah.
We'll go out to I'll put your website up a little bit later, and we can walk through
Mhm.
some of that stuff. I did notice that you have a lot
Yeah,
of
I
Batman
did a
related
lot of
artwork.
promotional work for DC, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers used to have a Warner Brothers studio store, so they did all sorts of merchandise, and that
Cool.
really kind of opened the door for me.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned to me before we started too. Because I saw it's oil, but what other mediums do you use? Multiple ones, you said, right?
Yeah, it's mixed between oils, acrylics, pencil drawing underneath. I always do a really tight drawing, get it all drawn out, and then I seal it with a gel medium. And then I keep
Oh, okay.
going over it and getting texture. I'll add a little gesso to it and then a gloss finish. And then I
Oh,
paint
wow.
oil washes, and it kind of like you can pick up the texture. And then when you lift out and glaze over,
Wow.
yeah, it was just, I kind of stumbled on it by accident, really, because I don't know,
Ah,
6 years ago,
cool.
a fixative that I was using they weren't making it anymore. And I couldn't find anything that worked the same. And
Wow.
then I stumbled across this gel medium, and it really just changed everything for me.
Very cool. Because I look at your work and to me, I mean, it's photorealistic. They're incredible, paintings that you do, but yet it has like this almost like a comic book feel to them because of the way how do you do that? What is that wash? How do you do that? It's got
I
like an
lay down the
opacity
oil.
to it. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
I lay it down medium thick, medium thin. I mean, it just depends. I mean, it's just wherever in a face, if there's, I don't try to just copy a photo. A lot of times I'll composite different things together and make it my own.
Cool.
So, when you put the oil down, then you lift it out with a rag or a wet brush or a dry brush. It just depends. And then you just keep glazing over the next day. Once it finally dries, you can just go back over.
Very, very cool.
It's a
Very cool.
process, but it's fun. And I try to give it I guess almost like a dream-like quality.
That's exactly right. It's got this opacity. It makes you feel like you're looking at it through like a time machine. I don't know. It's hard. Well, I'm going to put them up so people can see them. But
It's
yeah,
the textures.
it
I mean,
has a
it's
feel.
not the actual paint. It's the weirdest thing. Once I get that drawing done and I get the textures on,
hmm
it's just slapping the paint down and lifting it up. The hardest part is getting that on the board.
hmm
The painting part isn't hard anymore. I used to pull my hair out, but now it's just a flow now.
So I know you have a lot of baseball. You said you're a baseball fan,
Oh
and you've got a couple of, and maybe you've done more, but I know on your website you've got a couple of the Negro League greats, Josh Gibson,
yeah.
Satchel Paige. Did you have? I mean, what was your knowledge of the Negro Leagues? I know you've got Willie Mays on there. You got Bob Gibson,
Mhm,
several others. What was
mhm.
because many of the artists that I mentioned to you, I started talking to last summer for the Josh Gibson card art campaign. many of them, you had a high level of the Negro Leagues and some of those players, but not, that much. And I've found that out with most people, and that's kind of the way it has been for decades. I'm glad this year there's been more exposure to it.
Right.
And so what was your knowledge of the Negro Leagues and that part of baseball history?
Um, when I was younger, I just read a lot of baseball books, and that's where I found out about the Negro Leagues. And there wasn't that much information.
There wasn't.
I was fascinated, that there was this whole separate league of guys that were basically better than what was already out there.
Yeah.
It was just weird to me. I didn't understand it.
And yet it was all hidden away, right?
Right. And then, you read about the bus rides, and they couldn't get places to eat or sleep. And I was just like, but yet they pushed through because they loved the game so much.
So was there any particular reason why you did the Gibson, Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige ones, or just as a?
I just, they just stood out as, top players.
You got
Sometimes
you got Clemente on
oh,
there.
I grew up in Chicago, so I was a Cub fan. But when the Pirates came in, Roberto Clemente was my favorite non-Cub player, and I begged my parents to go because on Sunday the Cubs always played doubleheaders. So we would go see the Pirates when they were in town because I wanted to see him play. Because you could only see him on TV on the weekend.
I know, right?
It was the game of the week.
Are you following Talking 21 on Twitter? Because that is they put out something every single day. They have a podcast that's centered around Roberto Clemente, Puerto Rican baseball history. And if you're a Clemente fan, check it out because they have some very, very cool things on there about Clemente baseball history. I had on Jorge Delgado. He's the historian of Puerto Rican baseball a few weeks ago. And I'll tell you what a great conversation. I learned so much from him just in that hour that we talked. I could have talked to him all day about baseball history. It was a lot of fun. And I know you've commissioned not just work for teams, like, so how did that come about? How you did some work for the actual Major League Baseball teams?
Yeah. Yeah, I would send out samples and proposals. Like if they were retiring a jersey number, they would do a painting and give the player the painting in a ceremony before the game.
Oh, wow.
So I did a lot of those. That kind of really took off. And then the budgets just got cut. And they don't do it that much anymore. And, it's really awful.
You're out in Los Angeles. I noticed you have the Vince Scully one is fantastic. I better put them up in a minute, but I mean they all are. All your work, like I said, it's got like kind of a magical like quality to it. It like I said, it's photorealistic. It looks like a lot of the styles that you're seeing sometimes now on some of the Tops. Project, this or that they're putting out on baseball cards, but it's got this like I said, it's like ethereal. It's very, very cool, very, very cool stuff.
Thank you.
So and you've also done commission work for the players themselves too, right?
Yeah.
So who did they approach you, or how did that all come about?
The first player that ever commissioned something from me was Gale Sayers.
Wow.
And that was I was in the Chicago area and I had done a bunch of Cubs stuff, and his agent saw my work and they wanted to do a tribute to his 6 touchdown game. And I think it was 66 or 65.
Wow. Very, very cool.
And from that, I started sending it to teams, and then Mark Burley threw his no-hitter for the White Sox. And then he threw a second one, which was, I believe, a perfect game. So he wanted me to do a painting for his catcher, and his center fielder made a no-hitter saving catch at the center field fence. So
cool.
I did those, and then the trainer for the White Sox was friends with the Yankees trainer, Gene Sarazen, I think was his name, and he was retiring, so I did a painting, and then it just built on that. And then when Derek Jeter retired, I did a 3-set painting of him because he grew up in Detroit, and the Tigers commissioned 3 paintings, one in high school and then 2 at Tigers, one at Tiger Stadium and then one at Comerica Park. So they put all three in a frame, and then they took the dirt from his high school diamond, and then the other two field goals were underneath.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Very cool. I'm gonna put your website up while we're so people can see it while we're talking through here. So how much of your work is commissioned like that, or how much of it is just something that you just decide to do, or does it matter?
Say it's
Does it matter?
50-50, but I try to paint at least one painting a week, just
Okay,
because I love it so much. It's just
one a week.
it's my escape.
Wow,
I try to. I mean, sometimes I
wow.
can't because I'm busy doing stuff. But even if it's something little, I just love painting.
I can see that. Yeah, that Clemente one is fantastic. I mean, these are fantastic. I mean, they really really are. The looking at the Wrigley Field one, that's a lot of different things going on
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
that was the 100th anniversary of Wrigley Field.
And is that something that the team used for anything in particular?
No, they didn't. I pitched it to them, but they didn't do it.
Man, that'd have been made a nice
There's a
poster
funny
or
story behind
giveaway.
that. I don't want to diss on the Cubs, but I ended up actually doing the prints with Ernie Banks. So I got him to sign.
Wow,
And who else better to have signed? We had 100 prints signed by him, and he was such a nice man.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
I
So
went to his apartment in downtown Chicago. He lived right by the Sun Times building. He's like, let's go get something to eat. So we're walking down the street. It took us 45 minutes to walk half a block because everybody knew
I
who he was. And
bet
they were taking pictures, and he was signing autographs, and he would talk and talk and talk. I mean, he was just,
that's amazing.
everybody loved him. I mean, it was really cool.
That is amazing. Yeah, I can only imagine. So he signed
Yeah.
100 prints, and what did they end up doing with them?
We just sold them.
Okay,
I gave Ernie a cut, and I got a cut.
very very cool. Oh, you got a
It
Tom.
went fast.
Yeah, I bet they did. You got Tom Brady here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh huh. You didn't paint one of him in his New England. Since they're
I
supposed
do
to.
have one in his New
See
England
it?
one. It's older. It was like one of his first MVP years.
I heard that rumor that they're supposed to sign. Did that happen? They were supposed to sign him for a one-day contract so he could retire as a
Yeah,
Patriot. Was that true?
Yeah,
Did they do that?
I don't. I heard a
I
rumor.
wonder. I wonder. I love this Vin Scully one because you've got not just Vin Scully, but some great moments from Vin Scully announcing uh, in
Yeah,
that same painting.
what did he have? 67 years, I think, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Think about everything he saw.
Incredible, right?
It's amazing.
I know.
Plus, he did football.
Yeah,
You probably don't remember that. And golf. I think he did golf too, and tennis.
yeah. No, he's an incredible
Guys like
announcer.
him and Kurt Gowdy. I mean, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, it's fun to hear these kinds of stories. I had on his name is Dan Byrne. He's a musician. I had him on a few months back, but he grew up in California, and he writes a lot of music that's kind of John Prine,
Mhm.
the Bob Dylan style, kind of folk country kind of thing. And he did a lot of baseball music, a lot about the Negro Leagues, a lot about
Mhm.
baseball in California. He has this one song about Vin Scully. He talks about a truck driver driving, and the AM radios picking up the game as you're traveling through different parts, and it fades in and it fades out. It just brought back so many memories. So that's what I thought of when I saw this painting was the memories of. I grew up a Phillies fan, but I still
Yeah.
appreciate Vin Scully, and so I had Richie Ashburn and Harry Callis, and it was kind of the same feelings that when I saw that painting, that it made me remember when I was a kid, listening to games like you're talking about. You grow up with
Yeah.
that, and it gets in
Every
your blood.
team had their announcer who was there forever. And when I was growing up in Chicago, the Cubs, you had the Cubs and the Sox, and the Cubs were the only ones on TV at the time.
Hmm.
The White Sox didn't have a TV station.
Interesting.
And then they finally got one, and it was like a channel 32 or a channel 44. So it was like UHF, and it would barely come in. You're moving the antenna on the TV to try to get the game in. And then they finally got on, and then Harry Carey was there. And he switched over to the Cubs, and that was a big brouhaha that he changed allegiances. But I mean, he just got even more popular. And he was very popular with the Cardinals too.
Hmm. I look at some of these paintings that you've done. I'm looking at the Koufax one,
Mhm.
and what is really cool about some of them, it's one thing to paint something that's extremely realistic like you do, but then to put that little bit of flair on it, that the way that outline around Koufax, it gives like kind of the feel of speed. It gives like his I don't know, his aura. I'm not sure what to call it, but the way you did that, and it kind of surrounds him. It's just a really cool touch on a lot of your paintings. The way you do that, it's very very neat.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to. I mean, I don't try to just copy a photo.
Hmm.
It's just I don't know. I just
Well,
some
it's
people do it very well. I couldn't do like even when I was doing airbrush.
hmm
It just I just got too focused on the photo, and now I just put the stuff on the board, and when the paint hits it and the texture comes out,
hmm
it's kind of some of it's not planned, some of it's happy accident stuff.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, when you start a painting like this, because like
Mhm.
you said, first you have to draw it out, then you begin your process of applying, the colors and painting it. Do you have a something in mind, or does it kind of just flow on its own once you start it?
Just kind of goes. I put my paint out, and I have my little area over there, and I have all my paint next to me, and I have a little board where I kind of blend it, and I also blend it on right on the painting. But I pick a spot to start, and then it's just I'm basically just blocking it in, block, 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 and then it just kind of I feather it, and I have mop brushes and blending, and then it just kind of comes together, and then I
Pretty cool.
pull areas out.
I love to hear the processes on a lot of these. They're so much fun. I had on a fellow by the name of Sergio Santos, El Santos. He goes by
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen. He's
Oh
just
yeah.
so much fun to talk to him. But he mentioned when we were talking that he doesn't like to use a palette because he just doesn't want to waste paint, right? So he literally, the next painting he might be working on, when he's mixing colors or he'll use that next frame, that next painting, to do that rather than use a palette. I just thought it was so much fun because it's just unique. It was very very cool. So now he's already got another thing started in a way with the paint from one that he's already been working on, rather than mixing.
Mhm.
As opposed to my dad. My dad had a palette, your normal one where you've seen them, right, like a lily pad. You stick your thumb through them. I'm sure you probably have one. But he had so much paint built up on there over decades of having these things that we couldn't throw them away.
Yeah,
They were like works of arts on their own.
yeah.
So
My art desk or my where I paint, I've got you can see squares of probably 30 years of art
oh,
just
that's
from
cool.
taped onto the desk, and it's kind of cool.
That's memories. That's very very cool. Yeah, very very cool. So this one here, a Pedro, is that something they did for the Hall of Fame?
No, I actually did that for Fanatics a few years ago,
Oh, oh, okay.
and
Uh,
I still have the original. He signed it, but we did some prints, and he signed some prints. It
very
was when he
cool.
got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
The Babe Ruth one with the kids, and
Mhm.
I look at that one. It's like he's magical.
Yeah,
He's sitting there with the little glow around him, and the kids in the background looking at him. It's like he's like a being from another place. It's very cool. Yeah, these are fascinating. Like I said, I get it. There are so many great pieces of art out there, and many of them are extremely realistic. Yours are, but yet you've got a touch to them that makes them special. They're very very cool.
thank you.
Very very
I'm
cool.
not trying to like put
Essential.
down anybody who
No, I know.
likes to paint photos. I can't do photorealistic. I can't do it. I
Hmm.
tried. It makes me think too much, and if I think too much, I get in trouble.
Yeah, I bet, right? Boy, these are fantastic. Now, yeah, I'm gonna go back. I just want to show them the. You've done a bunch, and then that's where I saw all of the Batman ones. Boy, oh boy, going back to, you did some, yeah, Green Mile, Batman, the Joker, the Riddler. You've got some things on here that
I mean,
are
growing up, I was 4 years old when that show came out.
Burgess Meredith.
That was a huge deal, and it was on 2 times a week. It was like, oh my god, it's coming on. We got to go. We got to,
Oh,
there were
Caesar
no
Romero.
VCRs or anything. You had to get there and watch it, or you missed it.
Look at Cesar Romero as the Joker. That is awesome.
Well, I guess I've always just painted what I like, and I loved Batman as a kid, and I love baseball and movies. So I just kind of
Yeah.
gravitated to what I love.
Uh-huh. And you've got some musicians on here. You got Sinatra, you got Kamala, you got
Mhm.
Duke Ellington. Man, you've got, yeah, these are fantastic. The Godfather. Yeah, these are a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So, can people, so, okay, are you, what can people get from you? Um, your website, johnhanleyartist.com, but
Mhm.
what, are you selling prints of these
Yeah,
or
I
how?
sell prints, I sell originals, and now I'm getting into the NFT space
Yeah,
slowly.
that was my next question because I've asked several people over the years about, or over the months of doing these about NFTs, and is that the new frontier or what?
It sure seems like it. I still don't get it. I
I
can't
don't either.
figure it out. But
You're not the only
I
one.
got nothing to lose. You know what? If you don't try something, how are you going to know?
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, I mean, I guess it is what it is, but I'm one of these where I still even have a hard time. Maybe I'm just old. I mean, I don't know. I still have a hard time like reading from a tablet or on my phone.
Yeah,
I'd rather have a book. I don't
I
know.
still
Maybe that's
like
just me.
looking at an actual painting, an
Yeah.
actual, that's a 2D painting right in front of you when you go to a museum or a gallery or whatever. It's just
Now, now
anything
this
digital, it just doesn't do it. When you see it on a screen, it's not the same.
now this Cobb is a baseball card.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done any work like that? Because I'll tell you what, you could easily do this work for Tops or some of these companies. There's Fanatics now. If
Tops
you,
isn't going to be doing it anymore. I mean, yeah, Fanatics took them over.
yeah,
I did some Negro League uh, cards earlier this year, and then the thing got shut down because, unfortunately, the families get involved and they think there's all this money in it, and the
yeah, I've
rights to the
heard,
licensing, and
yeah,
just got shut down because there wasn't any money left for anything.
yeah, I bet, right? Huh.
It's really sad. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I love the cards. I love the card art. I guess I've just never explored it.
Because I mean, this, like I said, I don't know if you know who Josh Trout and
Mm-hmm.
several other those artists that are doing it for Tops now.
Right.
I guess for Fanatics, I guess, but well, Tops still has it for a few more years. I think it goes
Yeah.
till 2025 maybe or so.
Right.
But yeah, look at this Roberto. Yeah, Danny Torres would like these on Talking 21. These are very, very cool. I was just looking at what size were these prints, 11 by 14. Okay,
Yes, they usually run from 11 by 14 up to 20 by 30. Just depends.
very, very cool. All right, so I'm going to put you back on. Give me 1 second here. Um, so what are you working on now?
Right now I'm kind of I just signed a deal with an NFT company, so I'm waiting for a drop on about 5 or 6 images, not sports related. It's more gallery type, but we're going to start doing some movie type celebrity
Cool.
portrait stuff coming up. I just finished. I always wanted to paint Roy Hobbs from The Natural, so I just finished
Yeah,
that.
very, very cool. I'm going to have on later this week a fellow who does mural work for Philadelphia based. I can't remember the name of the institute that he works for, but he goes around and helps with murals that are going to be put up as in parks or
Yeah,
memorials. He's done a bunch of stadiums and other things like that in Philadelphia and this area around there. And some of this, I mean, have you ever been involved in projects like that, or you just stick mostly to this? Because some of this work would look fantastic on.
I don't know if I could paint on the side of a building. I mean, I guess
Right?
I could.
That would take something, right?
Yeah, that would be something. I've painted on guitars.
Oh
I
wow.
painted on stadium chairs. I did the Cubs did a guitar thing, so I did like a montage similar to the 100th anniversary thing on a guitar.
What'd they
And then,
do with it?
they auctioned it off, and then
Cool.
they had a set of 2 stadium seats, and I did Harry Carey, sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and I had him on there and Peanuts and Cracker Jack and all that. It turned out I
Wow.
think the chair sold for like $10,000. It was
Holy
pretty
moly. I bet. I've
That
got
was
to
that was interesting. That was like one of the first times I had ever painted on something not canvas.
not canvas. Wow,
Yeah,
very, very cool. Well, you know what? That's a great idea. I might have to think about what I could do with that. I've got two stadium seats from when they tore down Veterans Stadium
yeah.
back in, what was that, early 2000s when the new one went up.
Mhm.
And my brother actually got me two seats from the vet, and it's very, very cool. The fold up plastic,
Yeah,
hard plastic, and it's got the metal. You could bolt them down to wherever you want to bolt them down.
right.
But
That's what the Cubs did for the 100th anniversary. They
that'd
had
be
a bunch
kind of
of
neat to
artists
do.
do it, and they put them on street corners all over Chicago.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I finished my painting, I took it to a car detailing place, and I had them seal it with what they seal the cars with. To fight from the rain, and so it was all sealed up. It was pretty cool.
I bet. Um, yeah, I like when people get to see someone else's work that maybe they've never seen before, and when they see it, they if they have the same reaction as me, wow. you know, I think it's very, very cool.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that people get to see what you've got out there and what you've got available. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
I
think
need to
it's
get
cool.
more. Some of these younger, I just turned 60 a month ago, and there's these younger people. They're so good at marketing themselves, and they're on Twitter all the time. And I'm just not. I'm more focused on the artwork. I should probably be more focused on the marketing stuff, but I just love painting.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get it. And so you say you could do a painting a week. Wow. What's in all that process, what's the most challenging, or have you done so many now it doesn't really matter? I mean, is it the drawing part of it?
Yeah, it's the concept. I still do thumbnails by hand on a little sheet of paper and
Oh,
come up
okay.
with 3 or 4 different examples, and then I'll pick whichever one I like. That's just my process from working in the art studios. We always had to comp things up, show it to the client, and then go to finish.
So
It's just kind of my process.
so thumbnails, it's kind of like just a little mini mock-up that you're
Yeah,
looking
just
at for
and it's
ideas.
like, it's almost just shapes in a design, not real tight. And then, once I get the composition that I like, I'll move on to the tightly rendered drawing I do before the painting
Huh.
that I'll transfer down to the board.
Interesting. When I had Greg Kreindler on, boy, it's a long time. I guess it's May. I think he was on. He talked
Mhm.
about he does these things called color studies,
Yeah.
where they're smaller, maybe
Yes.
5 by 7, 8 by 10, and they're like mini little paintings. So you've got those
This-
too. Oh wow,
These were
very
part of the Negro League things
cool.
that got kiboshed. I think this is
Wow,
Martin Diego.
wow, that's too bad. You got any
Yeah,
more over there?
I do actually. I'm trying to think of who else I have. I don't know this guy's name. I wish I knew.
Boy, oh boy, Casey Monarchs. I'm not sure who that is.
I don't know. He was definitely from either Puerto Rico or the Dominican and came into the Negro Leagues. But I usually don't work that small. Those are pretty small for me. I'm usually
Huh.
minimum 20 by 30, 16
Okay.
by 20,
Okay.
just because I am so loose. It just, I can't, if I get too small, it's too tight, and I feel constrained.
So when you do a print,
Mhm.
what size would you do as far as a painting for something that you're going to do as a print?
Um, 20 by 30, 30 by 40.
And
Then
then, so then what
I'll get
happens?
a digital capture.
That's what I was going to say.
I
So,
have my
so what
own
happens
printer.
next? So what happens next? How do you take a photo of it, or what? How
I
does?
take it. There's a guy here in town. He's a professional digital imaging. and
Okay.
they'll do a digital scan, and
So,
then I get that back. And then I have my own large format printer. I have a 44-inch
oh
wide
wow.
printer,
I
so I
always
can print on demand.
okay. I've always wondered how they did that with a painting that may be larger in size. If they is it a large scanner or how do they
Yeah, it's
scan
a
that work?
really big camera that they'll either
Ah.
lay it flat or they have this wall with a vacuum and it sucks the painting to the wall.
Oh
And
wow.
the camera just comes down and it scans the whole thing real slow. It's
Wow.
really cool.
I
It's
bet.
super interesting, And then
I bet.
you can see it coming up on his computer. He's got this giant computer, and you can see the image coming up, and then I'll have the file the next day.
That is cool. And so that's an actual service that does that
Mm-hmm.
for you.
But now,
Okay.
with these new phones, the cameras on there,
Are pretty
they're as good
incredible.
as a
Yeah.
35 millimeter. If
Yeah.
I'm in a jam, sometimes I'll take my own photo here and stick it in my computer and mess around with it. But
Very,
it's
very
not
cool.
quite the same quality, but it's close enough.
So what's your next project? What are you working on right now?
Just the NFT drops, and I've got a couple ideas. I want to do a Rod Carew and a
Croc Crew. Okay.
Frank Robinson. I don't know. In my spare time, I like doing some of the older guys. It's
Um,
so hard now with these young players because they move around so much. So
yeah.
I did a Bryce Harper when he was with the Nationals, and then once you get traded, it's like
Now he's on my Philly.
obsolete,
He's at,
obsolete.
yeah. You're right. I didn't think about that. I mean, yes. There's kind of like an expiration date once they
There
once
is.
they get traded. It's yeah. They're no longer. They're going to sit on the shelf. Yeah. Do
There's
you?
something. I love the older. I just love doing the older guys. I don't know what it is. I just maybe because of when I grew up. I was just watching the other day on MLB Network. They had the '71 All Star Game on.
Mhm.
Almost every guy that came to the plate was a Hall of Famer. It was incredible.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. Well, I get it. I wax nostalgic all the time, and I have to, you know, um, you don't want to make it seem like, yeah. Back in my day, everybody was.
Oh, I get that from my son all the time. Dad, they weren't that good. They can't hit 100 miles an hour like these guys
Boy, oh
do.
boy, the conversations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have those conversations with people every single day. Yeah,
It
it's
drives
really,
me nuts. It's like,
yeah. They
yeah,
had
but at
no
least they
idea.
can play offense and defense.
Yeah, they had no idea how to play the game 100 years ago, right?
Yeah, they
I
used to.
think
It used to be the point was to let the hitter hit the ball,
that was
and
how
then
baseball started.
somebody decided why is it like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to me, well, actually, if you looked at the history of baseball, when it comes to statistics, because you've had all these variations, the dead ball and different eras that, offensive eras and pitching dominated in the late '60s and that. If you go from about 1972, well, free agency, which was '74, I think, was the first year. From there, for about the next 15 years till you get into the early '90s, that's like to me the most perfect baseball that was going on. And it's strange that it happens to be right when I happen to become a fan, but I mean, really, it had everything. It had offense, it had pitching, it had defense. Pitchers would finish games, but there was closers, and people stole bases like a Vince Coleman or Ricky Henderson, and
Yep.
you had all kinds of different personalities that were running around, from Billy Martin to Reggie Jackson to
Oh yeah.
and then the great announcers like we're talking about. These guys were in their prime. This is Harry Callis and Harry Carey and Vince
Yep.
Scully, and all these guys were not that there weren't great announcers before, and there's a lot of great ones now, but boy, it just seems like that was an incredible time, and it's about the average statistical. If you look at stats over those years, where you don't have these valleys and peaks and everything
Right.
else, it really was a good time for baseball, and for you, like you said, if you're painting guys from those eras and back, you don't have to worry about them getting traded,
Right.
sign in
Yeah.
free agency.
The game has definitely changed. I mean, I still love the game of baseball, but I don't know. It's hard to go to a game now. Nobody really
Yeah,
watches the game. They're on
boy,
their phone. Does anybody know how to score a baseball game anymore?
I wonder, right? I've thought the same thing. I take my boys to a game. I didn't this past been almost 2 years now, but yeah, I try to get to at least one game a year, to an Astros game or somewhere, if we're happen to be somewhere. And yeah, I look around and like they're already waiting by the fifth inning. Okay, they're getting a little antsy, time to beat the traffic out. It's like,
Yep.
no, no. If I'm at a game, I
Here
don't,
in LA.
I
Dodgers
don't
are
care.
in the third inning and out by the seventh. It's the
Oh my
weirdest thing.
goodness. I mean, I don't care if a game never ends. I
I
mean,
used to love doubleheaders. Loved it.
yeah,
Two
yeah.
games for the price of one. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but my most fun I ever had at a baseball game was, I think it must have been 2005. The Astros and the White Sox uh, played in the World Series that year. But the Astros played the Braves in the playoffs, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to go?" And most of the time, playoff tickets are a little pricey, but we got ones that were like way up in the top of the stadium, right? And they were losing like 5-1 going into the seventh inning. People started to leave. So we go down behind, if you're familiar with the Minute Maid Park, the Crawford boxes in left
Yeah.
field. And so we're standing back in the back of that. And then by the bottom of the seventh inning stretch, people are leaving. We sit towards the back of that. Then it's the eighth inning, more people are leaving, and we move down. And by the time the Astros tied the game in the ninth inning on a home run, we were like in the first two rows of the Crawford boxes because people had all left.
Yeah.
They had all gone. That game went 15 innings. We ended up sitting down there. The game-winning home run that was hit, I think it was Chris Burke. I think was who hit it. It went right over my hand. I reached up and tried to grab it, but it went over my hand. I had more fun sitting right there in the front because people just couldn't have the patience, and they missed a great game.
Yep.
It's too bad. It's too bad. So you have your website, and you said you're not really marketing it anywhere else. Is there any place else that people can find your work, or is that about it?
Instagram and Twitter. I
Okay.
have all that. Facebook. I have all that.
Okay. What do you
I have a pretty decent following.
What are you posting on Instagram?
Just about everything. I do a lot of process stuff, like beginning of meetings to the end.
That's what I was going to ask you, because that kind of stuff people really
people
enjoy
like to see
that.
Yeah.
And so so you're posting videos on Instagram. Are you you're under John Hanley Artist there as well?
I think it's J Hanley 108.
Okay.
Instagram, and Twitter is @Hanley Artist.
Let me look if do you have that list on your
I think it's on my website.
Twitter? Let me see. Let me take a look here. I know on you've got your website, johnhanleyartist.com listed. The Instagram one would be cool to throw up on Twitter as well, just so people could see that, because that kind of stuff, I think it's fascinating to watch, be able to watch. You do the time lapses, or how you doing it?
Yeah,
live?
I need to do that. I got to figure that. I got to have my son help me out with the phone, because I got to figure out where to put it, because I'm all over the place when I'm painting, and I see some people, they have it right next to where they're at, and they're very meticulous. Like, I'm not like that. I'm over here, I'm grabbing rags, I'm pulling this, I'm grabbing Q-tips.
Grabbing Q-tips.
I do. I paint with Q-tips. I paint with whatever I can get my hands on.
Are you still a Cubs fan, or?
Yeah, I am. I don't know.
How long you been out in California now?
5 years.
Oh, okay. All right. And so
Not that long.
you're probably like me, though. I've been in Texas 20 years. I'm never going to stop being a Philly sports fan. I'm always going to be a.
No, I like the Cubs. It's just after the World Series, it just seemed like, okay, we got one. Let's stop.
Right? Yeah, I know a lot of Cubs fans this year were very highly disappointed after Rizzo and several other players all left or traded away. Yeah.
Yeah, the general manager kind of slunk out of town with not much. When Epstein left, it was like
slunk out of town.
He did.
Who's your favorite?
He left a mess.
So you said you like Roberto Clemente. Do you have any? Who's your favorite Cubs? If you're a Cubs fan.
Well, I grew up, with Billy Williams is my all-time favorite.
Okay.
He wasn't flashy, but man,
sweet swinging Billy. Yeah.
Great swing, good outfielder, hit to all fields. Unlike the guys that can't do that today, they all have to pull the ball.
drives me crazy, right? To watch a whole side of a field
They're
empty,
giving it to you.
and yeah,
Take
and
it.
guys can't find a way to do it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with baseball today. We'll see. I think part of it, like I mentioned before, the cookie cutterness of the way
And the
players are being
stupid
taught.
extra inning rules with the California rule with the guy on second,
Mhm. I think some
seven
of
inning
that,
double headers, and then they tried to do that 61-foot mound in that Atlantic League.
right, right.
I just don't. Just
Yeah, no,
leave the game alone.
yeah, I mean, the mound's been, I think it was 1894 they moved it, was when they moved it back to 60 feet. So it's been there a long, long time. And I get it, guys are stronger, they throw harder, they do whatever. But,
Right.
it is a different era now. You have, besides the free agency and all that, they didn't have long-term contracts years ago. There was no free agency. There might have been six, seven, eight pitchers on a pitching staff, so
Yeah.
you couldn't afford to throw 100 miles an hour, and then you'd have to come back the next day and do it again. And pretty soon, it's going to wear on you. Different
Yeah.
time, different time. I mean, I don't know what you do to fix things, but they need to get playing. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen here with this lockout?
I don't see. I think the season's going to be less than 100 games. You're going to have a spring
Boy, oh
training.
boy.
You're going to have to. You're going to get guys hurt. They invest all this money in these guys. You
Hmm.
can't cut short spring training
Hmm.
because it's an investment.
Boy, that would be disappointing if that happens.
I don't see how
Well, I
the owners. How can the owners say they want mediation from a third party? Why can't they just sit down and hash it out?
right, right. I think part of it though, like I said, is these guys are not really feeling any pinch yet until they actually would start getting paid, which wouldn't be till the regular season. So I think that, yeah, I think they are going to let it maybe cruise into a little bit of the regular season and see what happens. But I think it's wrong. You can't keep playing chicken with fans because there's too much. You might have been able to do it 50 years ago, maybe. No, even not. You
There's
probably
other
couldn't.
sports now.
There's too much else out there, and I'm tell you what. There's guys. There's guys that are doing projects that I have more fun watching. Guys streaming. There's a, MLB The Show. There's
Oh yeah,
a couple of guys I had on. That their project on MLB The Show with post-war baseball and watching these, and the graphics are so good. I had more fun watching these two guys, Jake and his son, um, Jason and Jake, his son Jake, doing this than I did watching regular baseball. I mean,
yeah,
I had no desire to watch another game where it's just walk, strike out, hope to hit a home run.
yeah.
It's kind of, yeah.
My son's in high school, and high school season has started out here in California, and it's so much fun. I mean, there is so much talent out here. It is
I bet.
unbelievable how many good high school baseball players are out here. It's crazy.
Yeah, Texas is pretty stout when it comes to baseball as well. But like I said, I drive by these fields. When I first moved here, you couldn't move on some of these. There'd be complexes with four, five, six
Oh
baseball
yeah,
fields, and it would be full. And maybe it's
oh yeah.
because of the pandemic the last couple of years, but I have not noticed that same number. If you just not head count, but just eyeballing. Doesn't seem as many fields are all being used. Doesn't seem as many people are there. I'm hoping that's not the case because that's the only way you keep the sport going. You got to
Yeah.
get the
It's
next
not like that
generation.
here. There, all the fields are full. It's full.
Yeah, yeah.
Travel baseball.
Maybe football. Yeah, travel baseball. Maybe football in Texas might be still king. Maybe that could be why. But you know what?
Travel baseball is taken away from high school baseball. You don't really get noticed in high school anymore.
Boy,
It's
that's too
all
bad, right?
travel. Yeah. I mean, yes, they're going to come see you, but most of the kids get noticed in these summer leagues, and then they'll come watch you play fall ball. It's
There
crazy.
aren't there aren't kids because I've been starting to read more about that. That are not even bothering to play in high school. They're just doing travel
Yep,
and working out with those teams. Boy, that's a shame.
it is, and they're
Yeah.
everybody's got a pitching coach, and then they won't listen to their high school coach. It's messy.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know what you do about that now, but yeah, the paper play and these travel teams. I coached for many, many years, high school baseball, and then my nephew's in Virginia Beach when I lived there for a few years, and that they had pony baseball, which it was huge. I mean, there were hundreds of kids,
American
dozens
Legion
of
baseball. Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah. And now, you know what? I talked to my brother just in the last couple of years. It's gone.
Yeah.
There's no more Kempsville pony baseball because the too many kids were going off to play travel ball and AAU and different levels. And boy, it's a shame. That's a shame.
Well, the parents are ruining everything too, unfortunately.
Everybody thinks their kid's going to be the next I don't know who. You know,
That
Mike
and the
Trout.
radar gun. The radar gun. Come on, man. Throw it
Yeah.
over the plate.
Yeah. Right. Right. The max effort.
Learn how to pitch first.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're teaching it backwards. They
Right.
want these kids throwing 100. Oh, we'll teach them how to pitch. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Look what happened to Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson. They had to learn how to pitch.
Yeah, that's true.
They
That's
couldn't
true.
get it over the plate their first couple of years.
When was the last time you went to a game?
Did I go last year? I don't think I went to a game last year.
I've been taking a poll. I've yet to find anybody who's gone to a Major League Baseball game in the last year.
I went the
It
year
seems
before.
seems like not that many. I know a lot of people who've gone to minor league games though.
Yeah,
A lot of people that go to that minor league baseball for lots of reasons. I mean, baseball's still the most cost efficient sport out there. I mean, when
right.
it comes, but it's still not cheap. But
No,
minor league baseball, I tell you what, you can have a lot of fun at a minor league ballpark. It's smaller, it's more intimate, and they do a lot of fun things. And it's a lot cheaper. You can take your family more than one time a year.
yeah, absolutely.
But all right, man. This was a lot of fun. I
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time. I will. I love putting these things out there, and anything you put out on Twitter or wherever, I will make sure I get it out in front of people because I think your work is fantastic.
thank you.
I think how you're doing it, what you're doing, is very very cool. So I hope more people can check it out.
Thank you.
All right,
I love
man.
it.
All right, man.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, don't go away. I'm going to sign us off.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Bye bye.
Yep.